I participated in one stream on EA Dawa today, and I viewed more than two streams, but I wanted to talk about two in particular. So for the EA Dawa stream, I thank them for having me on from time to time and allowing me to, not just me, but others to basically think aloud about their thoughts on this and that. It's a lot of it is therapy really, and they have a very nice culture. They review who is moderator and make sure that moderators do not abuse their power, and there is scrutiny over the administrative actions of moderators, and that I find is really excellent compared to the, well, free for all of moderators in other people's live chats. And this is obviously a sign of being principled Muslims who care about backbiting and not allowing people to defend themselves. And this is, of course, heartening compared to the moral chaos of other people's streams. So I recommend EA Dawa, as I have done consistently. They allow me to make my points, and there are people there, capable of arguing against them, and there is a kind of moral and intellectual consistency. Of course, it's not perfect, but they try, and this attempt should be this attempt at adhering to their moral and religious principles should be acknowledged and applauded, unlike the streams of others I could mention. And so it proves that if you have a moral system, you're just better protected than having a group that basically has no idea about any form of moral system. People who are dumb enough to think that their race could be their religion and refuse to understand why it can't be their religion. It's not enough to look alike or have the same shade of skin color and say that's enough to keep you together. And it's a sign of moronic idiocy, really. But most of the time I'm dealing with people who are suffering from some kind of learning disability or defect of character that makes them reject truth, logic, and morality wherever they find it. They don't quite agree with it. Hello, New Gloff. How nice to see you. Yes, thank you for coming. A New Gloff I have met from the stream of the stupidest who was talking to Sargon, who now calls himself, for some reason, his name now, Carl Benjamin. Thank you. Thank you for asking a genuine question. Obviously, you haven't heard of secular Quranism. It is basically my interpretation of the principles in the Quran and my own application, which I know Muslims will disagree with because it's not their kind of Islam, and I suppose they find my proposal what's a word? They're not Jewish, but I guess if they were Jewish, I'd call it. They probably call it chutzpah, I suppose, because I'm not even Muslim, and I'm proposing Sharia for others who are not even Muslim, and well, that's my identity, and I'm sticking to it because basically what else are you going to use if your moral system is already kaput? What is your moral system? Do you even know? Do you think it's Christianity? Do you think it's liberalism? What is it? I don't think any Westerner even knows or thinks that it is an important question to answer. And that's why they have been at sixes and sevens for decades. All societies need a moral system, and obviously they need to give a name to it, be it Christianity or Islam or Hinduism or currently it's liberal democracy. And I'm saying it's not working. Liberal democracy is not working for anyone, not even its originators in the West. And because a lot of people just don't get these things, they never think about these things, they can't diagnose the problem. And I'm saying the problem is a problem of morality. And Aristotle, I believe, if I remember correctly, was the one who said that all political problems are moral problems. And what are moral problems? Moral problems are deciding what our moral principles are or ought to be, and whether they are being enforced fairly. That is basically the essence of the problem. And obviously, many Westerners do not even know what their moral system is supposed to be. And if they think they know, they object to it. And this situation has been caused by, well, it has been caused over the centuries. It began a long time ago, centuries ago. It's just that it hasn't really been noticed by anybody because I guess people thought it was still functioning reasonably well. Or at least Americans thought they were doing okay. I mean, I know they've had a few, bumps in the past, the Wall Street crash, the American Civil War, but they think they've gotten over it. But this is just, one of the milestones. The American Civil War, the Spanish-American War, America's participation in World War One and World War Two, and its acquisition of the global empire of the British. It's all part of a process. And what is this process? It is the process of putrefaction of Christianity, which I refuse to acknowledge, and I think those of us who are not Christians, who are concerned about Western civilization, because we are part of it in the sense that we live in the West, and we want the people in charge to run the country properly, so that all may enjoy economic and social stability and not feel that their ruling classes are insane, evil, or stupid. So I think it's not just me thinking, is it? We do live in perilous times. I am these days often reminded of the Aztecs. There is a lot of unnecessary sacrifice of the businesses of people because our politicians don't really care about us. They only care about the short term, about being elected into office. They have no long-term plan. They live from hand to mouth in moral and intellectual terms. They cannot explain the moral system that they're supposed to follow. They can only say it's liberal democracy, but what is liberal democracy anyway? Where did it come from? I can't find a single intellectual prepared to discuss these things with me. And I know there is a reason behind this. It is because they don't like my secular Quranism, and they have the dissident right have collectively conspired to ignore me. But I know I'm better than all of them put together because I'm the only one with a plan that is morally and intellectually respectable, that is also viable in the long term. But they won't talk about it because these YouTubers are too afraid of alienating their subscribers from whom they hope to fund their channels. And so they beat about the bush, they tinker around at the edges, they don't say what they really needs to be said, they won't talk about what really needs to be talked about. But what's useful about the stream by the distributors is I've been introduced to two more new names, that of Michael Lofton, who I know he's Catholic, I know Catholics and Christians flee from me, but I thought, well, I should still leave my calling card and ask to, invite them to discuss the future of Catholicism. Michael Lofton to discuss the future of Catholicism with me on my channel. I'm sure I won't even hear from him, but these motions have to be gone through. I have to be dropping my calling card with as many people as I can to spread the message of secular Quranism and to proclaim the fact that it is the only one that is morally and intellectually respectable and viable in the long term. Now, one of the more interesting conversations I've had today was with Ahmed of EA Tower, who, as you can imagine, is not keen on secular Quranism because I'm not Muslim, and he says he's not interested in politics because it's all rubbish. And I said, well, religion and politics is, the difference between religion and politics is a distinction without a difference because fundamentally all political problems are moral problems, and moral problems are problems of the moral system you happen to have. A moral system can be a secular political ideology or it can be a religion. And obviously, we have noticed over the centuries that secular political ideologies last a significantly shorter time than religion. And the religions that we will have heard of are the five world religions of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. And what these religions have in common is their respect for marriage and family values. And this means the prohibition of extramarital sex, which, unfortunately, Christianity being the weakest link, has let in. And Christianity, because of its failure, was replaced by liberalism, and liberalism has in turn been replaced by intersectionality. And intersectionality is toxic to your society, your tribe, your nation and civilization, and nobody can talk about it because maybe they just lack the intellectual capacity to talk about these abstract ideas. I mean, obviously there are academics in academia who could be talking about it, but don't seem to be able to talk about it because I guess with the dilution of degrees of educational qualifications, when everybody gets a 2-1, you get too many academics choosing too few jobs, and the ones who have jobs are afraid of losing them by saying anything wrong, and so they won't say what they feel to be the truth or what they feel to be logical or moral. They just want to know. They only say what they feel it is safe for them to say, and therefore they say nothing at all. And this is exactly the problem of significantly lowered moral and educational standards. And this has been happening for several decades now. And they won't admit it. There are too many vested interests. I mean, academic agent, he still doesn't get it. He's still going to have his daughter christened, for God's sakes. Christened in the Anglican Church. It just means he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it that Christianity is kaput. And that's why he's having his daughter christened. So, unfortunately, no, not unfortunately, I'm glad I am given the opportunity of hardening my position against Christianity, because my position is that it has failed, and people who don't get it are clearly fucked in the head, or suffering from some learning disability, or some, learning disability, defect of character, because they can't face the truth that their religion has failed. And they should know that it has failed, because certainly in the UK, more than half the parents in existence are not married parents. So something has gone very wrong over the last 50 years, the last half century, because most parents not to be married parents and to therefore be the sex offenders that they would be treated under the Quran. And I'm saying that if this is not fixed, things will go from bad to worse. And this means that nobody will talk to me about it, because not even white nationalists want to marry women of their own race, assuming women of their own race could be found to marry them. They'd all rather be gay or unmarried or non-parents. And this rather brings into focus how difficult it is to even want to be a parent. And why it is important for people to become parents and parent their children properly, in order for their tribe, their nation, their society, their civilization, their empire to continue in existence. And it's pretty clear that Westerners can't even bring themselves to do that anymore, because they're so hooked on the idea of extramarital sex, of fornication, of gay marriage, that the idea of marrying to have legitimate children is so alien to them, they can't do it. And because so many immigrants come from cultures who assume that marriage is, part of the human condition. They do it whether they like it or not, because it's expected. I mean, what else are you expected to do in life if not marry and have children? If you're lucky enough to find somebody to marry you. And anyway, this instinctive desire for survival is not even present in Westerners anymore. And that's why they're in trouble. And not only that, they can't face the truth about themselves and their religion and their collapsing civilization and the incompetence and corruption of their politicians. It's all just childishly start blaming Jews, or 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 what? I mean, what have they ever suggested? It's all kind of geared around the idea of being YouTubers and getting super chats, and never discussing anything properly, never facing challenges, and just sort of talking shit, basically. So although there were a few, good points, good, uh, interesting pieces of information had emerged in distributors' chat with Sargon. nothing much has been suggested. I mean, okay, I got a few leads about, who to go for, like this woman, this Romanian woman with an American accent called Alex, Cushetta or something. Um, but it's probable that she won't be getting back to me on secular Quranism. You know, maybe she can't bring herself to discuss it either, or this unspoken conspiracy never to platform me. It's still in place. So if these post-Christian Westerners think they can revive Catholicism or adopt Orthodox Christianity or revive Anglicanism, they really ought to have another thing coming. So academic Adrian, you think he's so academic and so clever. Why is he having his daughter christened? Why? Because he's submitting to the supposed religion of this country when, most Englishmen don't believe in Anglicanism. They don't believe in God, and they certainly don't believe that Jesus is God, and that is what the Trinity requires. But yes, in their minds they think, oh, we'll just pretend to believe because we need to pretend to believe to be part of the gang. So we're going to do it, even though we don't believe. And because they don't believe, they can't stick to any principle. They can only pretend, i.e. LARP. They LARP as Christians, but they believe in nothing. So they're no better than nihilists and atheists who believe in nothing. And the great thing about atheists and nihilists is that they're very easy to control. You just bribe or threaten them. And they're yours. They're anybody's. Because they have no principles. So they're like cattle, really. And how do you control cattle? With cattle prods. Or with a donkey. With donkey, you use a carrot or a stick. Very easy. And after all these years of explaining the situation to them, they still don't get it. Still, burying their heads in the sand of Christianity, hoping against hope that it can be revived in their lifetimes, when it really should be dead and buried. Who can believe Christianity? Did anybody really believe in it? Or were they just frightened by the Christian practice of burning heretics at the stake that they just shut up about, all their doubts? And when the American Republic was founded on Islamic principles, might I add, the rest of the old world decided they'd like that too. They'd like to have freedom, the freedom to not have to follow the religion of their monarch. And that's why they became liberals. And liberalism has basically hit the buffers. There's nowhere else for it to go. It can't go any further. It's been shown to be, well, what is the narrative of liberalism? It is that we can reach liberal heaven in this life, on this earth, if we get to the stage of people enjoying their liberties, as much liberty as possible. What liberty comes to mind? It's only sexual liberation from the rules of marriage and good parenting. And that's why the post-Christian Westerner is degenerate and weak and stupid and incapable of understanding what his ancestors would immediately understand, maybe 2 generations ago. So if I talk about moral system, nobody gets it, do they? Just don't get it. It's too abstract an idea for any of them. The ones who sort of get it will know that I'm proposing Sharia for non-Muslim Westerners, and they don't want it, and then they can't discuss it. They can't, have a dialogue about it. They can't. They just can't do any of that. So who's the dumbest Islamophobe? It is, of course, Dr. Mengele. So I've explained to Newclough what secular Quranism is, and it is, of course, the intermediate step from matriarchy to theocracy. Hello, Mark Smith. Why would you call secular Quranism Jewish, Sharia? I don't even know. Jews don't like it. I'm not preaching anything. I'm just saying morality is necessary, don't you think? After all these years, Mark Smith is still not getting it. So Mark Smith is still with the Christians, but I bet he's not really Christian. He's not been confirmed, he's just clinging to the religion of his ancestors, even because he doesn't understand his own history. He either doesn't know about the burnt and bloody history of Christianity, or he doesn't care. But that is the nature of people who can't reason in the abstract. Yeah, Eflin, for you, I don't see the value of worshipping a dead Jew on a stick, all right? I don't know why you do. I never get any sensible responses. It's just all this sort of dumb shit, None of them are valid reasons. None of them. So my proposition is that the shit moral system that you have, that you hate too, should be replaced by something better. You can't cope with that suggestion, can you? Hi, Jason Wilson. Yes, it's good to see you. Are you able to join me for a chat? They're always trolling me, Jason Wilson. Always. But without my hate watchers, who would? Well, I have mostly hate watchers, really, but that's okay. It means that people have understood my idea enough to hate my ideas. Community here. Well, my hate watching community. I'm afraid it's mostly anti-Semites and Islamophobes who come here, and the occasional Muslim and the occasional Jew, and of course my big break that I hope to get would be to speak to a public intellectual capable of talking about the things I want to talk about, the abstract ideas I want to talk about. Oh, I've had a few responses to my comments on the Distributist's stream. I don't know if Jason Wilson can join. It would be nice, because I thought he said wise and sensible things in the stream of Distributist. I don't know how much longer I can continue talking about this. I mean, I listened to AA on Alex Cuschetta's stream. I had a look at her Substack. She doesn't really write, does she? She just does podcasts, and she hasn't really got that big a channel. What did she say with the AA? She's taking Paul Gottfried seriously. I mean, Academic Agent said Paul Gottfried should be on a list of interviewees. And Paul Gottfried is this Jew who says nothing but, well, paleoconservatism. It's like, is there a religion called paleoconservatism? What is it? It's like, look, you're a Jew. You're not supposed to approve of Christianity. You're not supposed to be, pushing more Christianity, which is idolatry and blasphemy as far as Jews are concerned, onto Christians. And after knowing it's failed, it's completely unethical. But he doesn't really say anything. It's a lot of just pointless talk. I think I'm the only one who actually proposes a course of action that, sadly, Western men are not capable of following or understanding or acting upon. But I'll just have to keep repeating my message. So, Mark Smith asks, am I aware that calling Jesus a dead Jew on a stick will upset Muslims? Yeah, I don't care. It makes me clearer in my identity as a non-Muslim, because I know these Muslims, they can't say things about Mary and Jesus. And I'm saying, well, I'm doing it for them. I know they have to respect Jesus because they think he's some kind of prophet. But I'm not Muslim, so I can do what they can't do, which is say that Christians have been worshipping a dead Jew on a stick, and they don't know why. They don't know why. They still want to do it even though it's failed. Thank you. I mean, the nicest thing today, one of the nice things is to meet somebody on like Jason Wilson. Sometimes you just find somebody who's actually interested in the solution and isn't just, whoa, I've got this thing I have to keep saying because I have to believe in the thing that I said I believed, and I'm not going to ever change my mind. I'm prepared to change my mind if somebody just gives me a sound argument about what's wrong with secular Quranism other than they hate it. Right? It's not enough for you to say, I don't like it, I don't want it, you can't make me. That's a child's mewling, not that of adult men. But I do understand that most Western men have been infantilized and have been feminized, and not much can be expected of them. And it's very sad that they can't seem to fight it, and those who claim to be thought leaders in the dissident right are not honourable enough to entertain ideas that might lose some super chats. Oh yes, and before I go, I seem to have noticed that the distributors have said something about an Abrahamic religion. And he didn't say Christianity, he didn't say Judaism, he didn't say Islam, but I think he must have meant Islam. I'm just going to wait for the transcript to be processed, and then I'll try to find where exactly he said it. That shows a bit of movement. I know. Well, I've trolled his chats before, and I mean, obviously, he's got to be with his group, and his group basically conspired, or have this unspoken conspiracy not to ever platform secular Qurans, and so we can't really discuss it. But there it is. It looms over everyone because it is really the most powerful idea. It's the idea that is most antithetical to feminism and to liberalism and to this idea that a secular political ideology could ever work, because it doesn't have the divine authority of supposedly divinely revealed scripture. Because basically, what is the New Testament but the word of mortal and fallible men claiming that they met Jesus? I mean, so what? Does that make him God? Where does it say he's God? It's all cooked up, and not even particularly coherent. But anyway, I will finish now. I won't go on and on and on forever. It's after midnight for me. Thank you all for coming by, and thank you for your attention.